Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yvonne Pre-Show. I'm Yvonne Pre, your little ray of darkness. And today we have a special treat. We are actually joined with the writer, director, and the cast of the new British horror film Beyond Mamushi. So today we have writer, director M.W. Daniels, along with the stars Corina Jayne, Gary Cross, and Jemma Thompson. Everyone, welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Hey,
having us.
great to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. And also, congratulations for having your premiere the other day as well. How did that go?
thank you.
How was that for
Amazing.
everyone?
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
great. Yeah, it went
Loved
really
it.
well. Everyone was nervous, but it went well, and people were really impressed by the film, which was great.
How have you actually been dealing with this response? You've had like a real whirlwind of positive responses to this film. How's that feel?
Um, I don't know. It's not unexpected. You never know how people are going to take the film, and it's just good that people really like this one so far, anyway. But people seem to be really into it. Yeah, and we got kind of positive reactions from all different people, not just people into horror, people into all sorts of films. So yeah, it's good, and it's early, so it's like early March, and already we won an award and we've had a premiere and we've had lots of reviews. So can't really ask for more, really. It's great.
No, you've done really well. And also, Karina, forgive me if I'm incorrect, or forgive IMDb if it's incorrect. Is this your actual first like on-camera role?
Uh, no, but it's probably the only one I'd really say. But yeah, I had
Oh,
other bits. But yeah, I mean, they've all been well, similar, I suppose. But this is the only one that's, I think that I had faith in it, maybe going somewhere with, I really thought this one would be. I don't know. I just thought it would be an interesting film to watch, other than the other ones so far.
what was wrong with
More,
the
most
other? What was wrong with the other ones, or were they just little things with friends or whatnot?
yeah, friends, and also they're like little short ones. They didn't. Martin's really good at sort of pushing this film out as in everywhere he can possibly push it, and it wasn't the case with the other ones. Whereas, so I think this one's had the most. It's going to be looked at the most, I suppose, is what I mean. Whereas the others were just sort of like, some of it was for fun, some of it was just maybe it went to one festival, for example, whereas this one's going to sort of travel. So this one's got a good chance of being seen and hopefully being enjoyed.
Oh, yeah, very much enjoyed. I see positive reviews for this everywhere. It's like this is a phenomenal film that you guys have put together. So I want you guys to realize, or just how loved this has been, because this has been doing great. Karina, as well, with being that the subject matter is such a heavy one with like domestic violence and mental health and whatnot. How did you prepare for your role for this?
Um, well, I suppose, as we said on one of the last ones, it was I probably had some things myself that I could draw on from like past experience, perhaps. But I also have known a lot of people who've gone through different versions of domestic abuse, like family members and friends. And I hear all their stories or how they dealt with it, or even how they've been acting, and you wonder why or how they've stayed in a relationship for so long. And it just goes to show, when you're in it, I don't think you see it quite as clearly as when you're not. Um, and so we really took a lot of their stories. Um, yeah, that's probably.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the reason why it ends up like resonating with people so well, because we all know someone who has actually been through that. So we can all see what she's going through, seen in other people. That's why that's that little bit hard hitting. And Gary, with yourself, how did you go with kind of studying or researching basically to be a manipulative arsehole, for lack of better words?
Have
Well,
to ask.
can I just say that on the day of the showing, someone came up to me and said, Gary, I liked what you were doing, but I want to kill you. So that was very nice. And that was true. He came up to me and then he just walked away.
That's when you
You
know
know,
you've done a good job. Yeah.
yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was great. I mean, what Karina's saying as well, you know, we've all drawn an experience from that, and I'm no different. You know, I mean, I've known people who are, you know, nice people, and you would not believe that they have what goes on behind you know, closed doors. I mean, I had an experience. It was a close. It was family, friends. You know, just to cut a long story short, she lived in Australia. Yeah, yeah. She immigrated to Australia with her husband. She came back to visit her parents. I found on the street, battered. Um, I took her back to her house. Where the husband was there, and it turned out that the husband, Ronnie, who was a friend of the family, was the one that beat her up, basically. You know, and it was quite a horrific story. And you know, she and he was like one of these nice people you would never ever think, you know, would ever have done these sort of things. So I suppose I kind of drew from that. You know what I mean? That just you know, life experience, basically.
Yeah. Were there times when you were playing Gary that you really hated doing the certain, like saying certain
Yeah.
things or behaving certain ways?
That I hated some of the stuff that we were
Yeah.
doing. Is that what you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did, and me and Corina have talked about that. You know, there was one scene where when I had the knife, and you know, it was a dream sequence when I had her on the bed. That was quite a, you know, and I actually kind of turned around and apologised to her after it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was such a, you know, you know, because me and Corina we got on really well. You
Yeah.
know, I've known her for years because we worked together before, and I know she trusts me, you know, which was nice. But that scene particularly was quite a heady scene. That, you know, it was you know, it drawn on, you know, after we'd done it really well, and it was one which that kind of you know, not upset me, but it was one that I felt really bad about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because look at her, she's a gorgeous girl. Do you know what I mean? So, you know.
And with yourself, Gemma, because you just play, I'm going to say this is one of those characters where I feel like you had a lot of fun with, but it was also like, I'm not on the screen for very long, but I'm going to make you remember me. I feel like it was one of those moments because I can say that Emma was actually my favorite character because of just how blunt and just kind of like, I felt like I was getting insulted a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I did have a lot of fun with Emma because my backstory wasn't so in depth. I could kind of decide for myself why she was coming back to do what she was doing. Why is she coming back? What is she coming back for? Is she coming back to help Kate, or is she just coming back to wreak vengeance for herself? So it was like, oh, I can have fun with this because that's going to be the question that people could be left with. So she was just a very fun character to play. And as you say, she was only on the screen a couple of times, and it was Martin had written her so well. I just wanted to do justice to his writing as well.
So, yeah, very, very impactful. And also, I find that with the confusion of if she is there for good or there for bad, really just kind of leans into everything that Kate's going through because I feel like any confusion you have in the film, it's actually kind of the point, just because we're just as confused and lost as she is. So it was
because as you said earlier, people don't understand why battered women or battered husbands stay with their partners, and you don't. It's one of those things I don't think you ever understand unless it happens to you. So with Amma, she's that kind of uncertainty as to why did Kate stay for so long? Why was that the outlet she took instead of getting herself away from her husband? Why did she choose to rely on somebody else to get her away from him instead of doing it herself? And when you're on the outside, there's always so many why questions as to why these relationships stay together for so long.
Now with sorry, Martin.
Right.
You're right.
Sorry to interrupt.
With this, Martin, I was just curious, where did the inspiration for this story come from? What made you want to write this one?
Um, God, it's a tricky one, really. Um, yeah, I was in a situation like 26 years ago with an ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, believe it or not, and I went up there on a Saturday night, and I shouldn't really be saying all this on the podcast, but I went up there on a Saturday night to see her, and he was at a comedy club downstairs of his friend, and he basically called her all evening, and she answered the phone, he hung up, and she had a baby at the time who wasn't even one really, in the little kind of chair on the floor. And the baby started screaming halfway through the evening, and that was kind of an indicator for me to just go. I kind of know, I know that now, you know, there was something in that, but I didn't. I stayed, and I was having a fag or spliff over the balcony with her, and he saw us. And yeah, he virtually kicked the door down about half an hour later and walked in, got a kitchen knife, put it to my throat, got me on the sofa. His friend was just standing there watching over, so I couldn't leave. And then she basically tried to stop him. And, you know, my ex-girlfriend at that time, she was quite small, maybe, you know, maybe under 5 foot. And this guy's like huge, like, you know, 6'4", 6'5", and he punched her in the face. And I remember seeing her feet leave the floor. And I remember seeing the blood come out the side of her mouth. And then she was out for about half an hour unconscious. And the baby was screaming. It was like chaos, you know. And I didn't even expect this, you know. Obviously, when I went there, I didn't even know what was going to happen. Just thought it was going to be a cool night. And that left a indelible impression on me, really, in a negative way, where I always wanted to face something like that. And doing films all these years, I never wanted to go near the subjects. There's a lot of subjects, the obvious subjects that never go near, and that was one of them. And then suddenly thought, okay, why not try and challenge myself and write a script? And if I don't like it, if I start feeling upset, if I start feeling anxious, I'd stop writing and delete it. And I did, and I kept going. So there was a lot of, as Corina's saying, if people putting in experiences, whether they've people gone through stuff themselves, friends have gone through stuff. So it was that kind of script, you know, and I really wanted to face up to this, yeah, this anxiety, this thing that was there, and you know, kind of put it to bed, I suppose, you know, because I'd never ever go back to this subject again. I'd never write about this again. It's like a one-off thing, you know. I couldn't face writing it again for anything else, and I don't see it as relevant to write this sort of story again. And you know, everybody in the film acted it out phenomenally. I mean, just unbelievably. You know, couldn't ask for anybody else to do this as good as they've done it. And yeah, so this film is kind of a standalone. So that was the inspiration, and a Todd Rundgren song called International Feel. And the lyrics that start that song are "Here we are again, the start of the end," and the start of the end. And as soon as I heard the start of the end, that was it. It just started. The whole thing, the wheels started moving for this script on those lyrics. And I was playing that song all the way through, writing this script, you know. Um, but yeah, sorry, my behaviour was terrible. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's so bad.
Music is a really good instrument to get things going because I write sometimes as well, and sometimes I can start something with just picking a song and just constantly playing that or playing something in the similar genre. But another thing that really added to the film, apart from the subject matter, which I know you say you don't want to touch on it again, and it was rough to do, but it is something that we do need to touch on
Yeah,
because it is something that
yeah,
does show people that they're not alone with certain situations and whatnot. So it's
yeah,
important for them to
yeah,
know that. But
definitely.
the thing that really added to this, apart from the color grading and some of these shots that were just very bleak, the composing for this film is great with the tension it builds. And I believe that was all you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a collective. Everybody's done that. You know, when we first rehearsed, and Kathy, who plays the DI, sorry, she also does clapperboard. And when she watched Gary and Corina in the room for doing the pill scene, she really said to me after she felt they're like geniuses. They are geniuses, but she could feel this uncomfortable. The atmosphere completely changed in that room, and that's because they can come in and change that atmosphere with what they do. They can bring it off the page and bring these characters into the room, like, in my opinion, like nobody else can do. I don't care who the actor is. They just got it amazingly. And she really felt that. She felt the fear from Gary's character, like the power of his character, the fear of Karina's character towards Gary's character. Unbelievable, yeah. So I felt that in the room, yeah, straight away. I knew it was going to happen because we'd rehearsed it for a while, and I've worked and known Corina for like 16 years, so I knew that she would just like bring this thing into the room, and she did, and it was, yeah, as you see it on the film, it's pretty astonishing.
One thing I actually really liked is that kind of motif with the kite at the beginning and at the end, because that's supposed to be Kate's kind of, I say, connection to childhood, where at a time where she was safe, and you can really see on her face there is content when she has that, and then the tension of walking back to the house, going back to Chris, is incredible. So Corinne, fantastic work with actually getting that conveyed across, because it was great. And also just something to do with Gary, just how much he just hates the fact that there's that something like, not Gary, Chris's character. It wasn't Gary who did it, it was Chris. The just him hating that there's something that keeps her safe and makes her happy, and just how disgusted he was by ripping up the kite. Just, I wanted to smack him. I really don't know what to say, and it come to that straight away. As soon as that happened, I was like, excuse you, to ruin that kite.
She got a new one at the end, mind you, didn't she?
I also liked with the beginning of the film, when they're moving into the house, how it's actually set up a little different to kind of look like it's kind of like a home film. It's actually framed a little bit differently, because you don't see the bad moments in home movies, you don't see the bad moments in photo albums. And I think that really perfectly sets it up, how, look, they look so happy. And then you go back and then you just see Chris just sitting there annoyed that she might have had some fun, just kind of waiting to kind of really just have a go at her and just belittle her.
Because the whole film plays on antithesis. It plays on one to the other. It's like Chris is good one minute and he's bad the next minute. But it's not like this schizophrenic thing. It's like because he literally wants to make up with her because he loves her and he can't live without her, as he says in the film. But then it just happens again. So it's like, it's just as in real life, as that happens, unfortunately, in real life, and that's what the film is based on, that antithesis, completely.
Because like the switches that you have, Gary, are just so striking. It actually feels very threatening when he's gone from being so sweet to straight away, this cake, when did you buy this cake? This cake's disgusting. And like, you made me panic. That's how well it's come across.
I think it kind of needed that, instead of a, like kind of slow, kind of slow build up, to being nice and, and then being this sort of animal. I think to be that kind of nice person and then to snap like that, I think that's kind of more terrifying. And that's what I always want to kind of, convey. There was no in between. And I think these people, that characters like that, I think that's the way it happens. I think that's the way it happens. And it's a terrifying thing. You could see, and when I watched the film, you could see the kind of tension and, my partner's demeanour, that she was just waiting for something to happen. You can actually feel that there was something going to happen and when it was going to happen. And you knew it was going to happen like that. And I think that was, I think that's the key to his character, to bringing that sort of thing across, was very important, in my building of my character.
Because you really get that with Kate, where when Chris is in a good mood and you can see she's like, oh,
yeah, she's terrified
a little bit, but there's still that tension that you can see that she has.
And I think that's a good thing, because you could see it in Kate. You know what I mean? She was like, tippy-toeing about. You know, she was walking on eggshells. She knew something was going to happen, but the way that it happened was horrible, was horrific to her. And in all honesty, she didn't deserve it.
No.
I don't think she deserved it. You know, she didn't deserve it. You know, she's a good person. What happened to Chris, my character? What happened to him? Why was he like that? Probably something to do with his dad. You know, his dad was a bit of, you know, he had his problems. Whether I witnessed stuff in my youth, you know, my mother, she lives in Scotland, hence my Scottish accent. Was she running away from him? He looks a little slight. He's a lovely guy, you know, but he's a slight person, you know.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing one thing I would have said with Chris's character is that the way his dad was, that maybe Chris just didn't really have a chance to know any better.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Which is that vicious cycle of it, just kind of nature versus nurture. This is just what you've grown up seeing. This is what all
exactly. You know, his dad doesn't look threatening at all, does he?
No.
His dad's a small cat, you know. So what have I seen in my youth from my dad? You know, who knows? And it's a good writing of Martin. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, you're thinking, what's going on here? What's the relationship between me and my dad? You know, we'll never ever know. We'll never see it. But with the change in, you know, the violence involved, the psychological stuff, where did that come from? You know, it's obvious it came from his dad somehow. We'll never know.
But going back to Emma's character, was it really tough to kind of see someone in a domestic situation, but to ultimately be saying those things that sometimes we really wish we could say to someone about, like, oh, like, you're still here, you know?
Yes and no. I actually worked with the homeless for a year, so I did experience a lot of those kind of stories. And in that situation, obviously, you have to stay professional. And there'd be times when I'd just be thinking in my head, I almost want to shake you to wake you up to the reality of your situation. So it was quite refreshing to be able to just say, like, as Amma just did, she could be disgusted, she could be, you know, I personally don't think that she was looking at Kate to free her. I personally think that she more enjoyed the power that she had over Kate, because I don't think Amma had any power in her life, even though she was a psychologist, and, you know, and she obviously quite respected in her field, from what I believed of her character. And it's quite often people that you would never expect it, that behind closed doors they are being cowed and subdued and abused. So I think it was just really, it was fun to be able to say what you would like to say sometimes in these situations. I'm sure with working in retail, there's things you would like to say to customers that, you know, you really can't. But imagine the release if you could just one day or even 1 hour say what you thought instead of what was expected of you. So that was...
Oh, wow. Yeah. Trust me, there's a lot of things. I've worked in some pretty rough places, it's like discounted places. People kind of, it's like people who go to McDonald's and expect Michelin star quality for $2. It's something like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
it was. Trust me, there's a lot of built up things I want to say to certain people.
It was also very refreshing being able to play a character that wasn't emotionally invested in anybody else, in any, you know, she wasn't invested in Gary, she wasn't in Chris, she wasn't invested in Kate. So she was just literally, I am here for me. I'm doing what makes me feel better, or what makes me feel good, or what I want. And there was just, with her character, there's almost no thought for anybody else apart from what they could give her in the end. And it was that sense of satisfaction when she does pass the knife over and Kate takes the knife, and it was just that sort of sense of, yes, now I've got the power.
Well, one of my favorite bits of you, Gemma, was when you were walking up to the house, and I think I said to you the other day, when you were walking up the house, and when you walked into the house, and when you were looking about the house, when you look down to the kit, I thought that was really, really, when you're actually walking up to the house and getting in, I thought it was really powerful scenes. That I really did. I loved that that scene. You walking up to the house, going into the house. It really set the tone for it all. I thought that was really powerful. That scene, for some reason, I don't know why, but it just really kind of resonated with me.
Well, I think it's because she was basically going back, but she wasn't going back as a victim.
Yeah, exactly.
She was for all of her life behind closed doors. I feel like she felt like she was a victim, and this time she's going back and she's like, maybe I get to do what I should have done then.
Yeah.
Was to free myself by finding someone else to help me.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was a powerful scene.
And also kind of like projecting things that she would have wanted to say about herself onto Kate, like, oh, you're still here and whatnot. So these are things that she, like, even as a psychiatrist, she would have been asking herself, why are you still doing this? Why are you still here? Why are you still putting up with it? So you actually got to say it out loud to someone in a similar situation.
Yeah, my favourite line was when she goes, oh, you still love him, do you? Oh, that's nice. Because, it's like... It was. Yeah, that's something that... Yeah, that was the really inappropriate thing that you think in these situations that you really don't want to say. And yeah, I like that Martin had me really lean into that line.
And also because it was just totally out of the blue, that line. That line you're saying, it was totally out of the blue. It was like, it was as if you were taking it out of your character. Yeah. But it was your character. You kind of take, is that? You know what I mean? It was really nice. It was really nice. It was really good.
It was, for me, it was like the first kind of little inkling for the audience that maybe Emma wasn't really. She's not the. She's not riding in on a white horse.
Yeah. It was nice. It was really nice. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was the bluntness of just how she was, because you expect she's going to walk in, she's going to be supportive, she's going to be, oh, I understand, and just like, oh, you're still there, are you? Well, whose fault's that? It kind of steps like that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, she was almost guilt shaming Kate's character, I think, which was wild for somebody in that position to do. It's almost like slut shaming the rape victim, and she was like victim shaming Kate for staying with him. And it's like, well, do you really have any room to talk, Emma? Because you stayed with your husband. So in a way, she's also calling out herself.
Yeah.
Because she also stayed. So yeah, she's a very, very odd character, but a lot of fun to play. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Very good.
As I said, she was my favorite. She had the most impact just because she wasn't anything that I thought she was going to be, just because of how blunt and dry she was. I was like, excuse me, who are you talking to like that?
Well, I have Martin to thank for that, because he wrote a brilliant character, and I was just lucky enough to be able to have that role, which, that's horror film has always been that's the big one. That's what I wanted to do, and to have my first sort of foray into the world of horror be this good, I'm just, forever grateful.
Well, I had a chat with Martin a while ago when I did my review, and I said how this kind of lent a little towards thriller as opposed to horror. But then I thought about it, and I think I might actually take that back, Martin, because I will say this, is that I know that thrillers make kind of horror seem a little bit more accessible, but horror doesn't always have to be jump scares and blood and gore, because horror actually get to explore the horrors of the human condition. So if you have a film kind of like George A. Romero's Amusement Park, it's the horrors of growing old, where this is the horrors of domestic violence, but also the horrors of our own minds, which you've managed to explore with that quite well.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know. I mean, Thriller just reminds me of that Michael Jackson album. So that's the only thing. And Thriller reminds me of the 80s and these programs that were on a Wednesday night, thrillers, and they're just like boring. So for me, the whole thriller thing, the word, it's just become synonymous with boredom in my mind. So yeah, that's why. And I never wanted to write a thriller, so I didn't take offense, but I was like, God, no, it's not a thriller at all. Not that I dislike the Michael Jackson album at all, but it's just the whole thriller thing. And the word thriller and thrill, it's kind of such a cheesy word for me. I don't know. It makes me cringe a little bit. Um, so maybe that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. So I
Well,
don't know.
here is me officially taking it back. How do you feel?
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No, because like after I wrote it and had a chat with you, and I was like, actually no, because I've done reviews on films where it's been something where it's exploring the horrors of the human condition, and this isn't any different from that. And I got
Yeah,
it,
of course. Yeah.
and I for myself put it into the jump scare and blood and gore bit for a second or a minute when I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
So I
because
will
it
take it
delves
back.
headfirst in.
I
Yeah,
take
it
it back.
delves headfirst. And so thank you into the human condition, and that's the premise of the film is to grab the audience and pull them into the screen and put them in Kate's position so they can feel what it's like, and they can almost, maybe not almost experience, that's not the right word, but, you know, be a peripheral, more than a peripheral viewer, sorry, on it, so they're quite close to what she's feeling, other than just watching it. And it's like, we feel sorry for her and whatever else. It's like they're really in the screen. So that's why it's quite slow paced, the film, because it really gets under people's skin, and there's a good reason for that. Yeah, to pull the audience in, which it seems to have done with some people. So that's really good.
No, it's good.
Well,
Some slow burns don't get done correctly. Sometimes some slow burns build to something and they fizzle out. I found this with Hereditary. I actually wasn't the biggest fan of Hereditary, but this is the perfect
Okay.
slow burn where the tension does build. That builds with the camera work, with the cinematography, does with the music as well. So no, it's a slow burn and it's done well.
It's weird you say that because when I first watched Hereditary, I wanted to write a horror film because I hated it. Then I bought it on DVD. I sold it. I give it away, I think, or sold it. Then I bought it again
Yeah.
and loved it. But I still thought we kind of were led into what's going to happen because there's music or in them kind of scenes where the jumps.
Mm.
So I didn't want that. So I wanted to kind of pull out music like Mike Flanagan did in The Haunting of Hill House. So people just don't know what's going to come next. And that seems to have worked. But the jump scares are not, I didn't put them in purposely. It's just part of the story. They're just relevant to what the story is.
Mm.
And it just so happens that it turns out there's jump scares.
Well, they worked well.
Yeah, cheers.
They worked
It's
very well.
it seems to be affecting people, so it's doing its job, right? You know.
well, I know a lot of the reviews of people have said it's a film that has stayed with them for long after the credits have
Yeah,
rolled. So,
yeah,
it's definitely thought provoking. And I mean, for me, I class like Schindler's List as a horror because
yeah.
what's more horrific than that, the what went on in the camps. So I easily identify this as a horror as opposed to a thriller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, completely agree with you there with that. That's another thing of the human condition of just how vile we can be towards each other, which is exactly what we are. It is with this as well.
Yeah, I think it's scarier when there aren't like monsters or over the top killers and stuff, because when you've got the scary monsters and things, there's always a little part of the back of your brain that's going, yeah, this is frightening, but I know it could never happen. I'm never gonna like meet a swamp monster or a werewolf or something. But you don't know if you've already met a Chris,
Yeah,
and yeah,
a
you
good
could have,
example of all monsters are human.
yeah.
Yeah. So, also, I'm actually quite curious. Where did the name Mamushi come from? It's such a unique name, and I'm not exactly sure where this is from.
uh,
Oh, there's a story. If Jem is laughing, there's a story.
it's actually Japanese. Yeah, it's Japanese. It's Japanese for snake, but I can't really tell you the whole story because it's a bit private. But
Okay.
yeah, I couldn't want to get in trouble. Yeah, I used to know someone called Mamushi, a woman in Africa, and it's not a real name. So it's like a pseudonym, but I can't tell you why it's a pseudonym because that's it's just not going to work. So I did an album called The Mamushi Cult maybe about 4 years ago, and it was like a album that was based on music for a film that never happened. I didn't do the film, but it was me imagining it. So and I just that name stuck. So I was thinking, okay, let's call the film that. And it went through different names. Beyond Amma, I think it was called at one point. Um, but for those who haven't seen the film, obviously people watching podcast, I can't tell you why it's called Beyond Mamushi. You see, I can only tell you when you've seen the film why it's called that because it's going to spoil it otherwise.
Because I've actually had I've mentioned this film to people, and obviously I have a screener that you've given me. I'm not going to share it because it's not my story to share because I'm not too sure when this will be streaming for people. But people are like, can I watch it? And I'm like, I'd love to give it to you, but I can't because I promised Martin I wouldn't do it. So is it getting online anytime soon for people to get to see it finally?
Well, my previous film, Lizzie Head's on Amazon Prime, so I would have thought this would be, Amazon Prime, but it has to be in festivals for at least 2 years. And if you put it, if you stream it anywhere, it normally gets disqualified. I think that's the rules and regulations of festivals, because they want it exclusively for their festival. So I'm going to keep it in festivals for another maybe a year and a half, maybe push it for 2 years, and then put it on streaming or Amazon Prime, something like that. So that's how it's going to work. I won't put it on YouTube because some of my older films are on there, but the films that are really good, that I think are really good, like the last two films, I wouldn't put it on YouTube.
Yeah, because I have mentioned it to people, and like, when can I say it? And I'm like, when you can say it, I don't know when.
This is the festival thing, yeah. I can't really put it for release because it's like a featurette and it's not long enough. If it was an hour and a half, maybe, yeah, I could try, but it's not. So this is the thing, it's way under time for that. So it just goes into feature. In film festival speak, a feature film, but when it comes to like the mainstream cinema thing, 50 minutes is nowhere near a feature film. It's still classed as a short film. So yeah, I just have to try and save more money next time, make a longer film, I suppose.
I think it's a great length. I really don't think you needed to add anything to it. So even if someone goes, "Oh, add 20 minutes to it," you're like, "I'm just gonna be dragging it out." Then it's so self-contained.
Yeah.
It's kind of. Or did you have ideas for it to be longer?
No, but funny enough, last Friday I was watching like a podcast with these two guys, and they said, "Oh, the film could be done in 10 minutes," and I was just like, "Well, bullshit." So it couldn't be done in 10 minutes because the contemplation of Kate. That's the whole point of stretching the film out and having that extended duration of time. Um, Especially their relationships, so we can see all that. And you can't fit that in 10 minutes. And if they're watching this, then I think they're talking rubbish.
Yeah. It's like you need to really build on Chris's character and actually seeing how quickly he flips and just the situation with his dad. You also need to see just the confusion that Kate's in, and you can't convey
Yeah.
all that in 10 minutes. No way could you do
No,
that in 10 minutes.
I know. I don't know what they were talking about, but I almost dropped the iPad, laughing my head off. I'm just like, what are they talking about? But maybe they got their own realization of what they think. But as we made the film, all of us, then no, the way we see it is completely different to them. So not 10 minutes. No, It's just hilariously bad. What are they talking about? So they must have been on bad drugs when I watched the film, or something like that. You know, it's a muster about that. But yeah. But I think I deleted them after. I think I was just annoyed. Sorry, just one of those things.
Because I'm just
You
thinking,
know,
like, what could you cut out? I'm like, just have just Amma's scene and maybe just build
no,
all around
nothing.
that. But there's still so much around that that you need.
Nothing
Yeah.
could have been cut.
No.
No, not at all.
No, there's no. I have no idea.
It-
I kind of
Like,
want to check it out, but I feel like it's going to annoy me like it annoyed you now.
It's perfect as it is, you know. It's perfect as it is. It's absolutely perfect. It
Yeah.
works. All the moving parts work. Everything works. It doesn't need to be extended by even 5 minutes, and it doesn't need to be shorter by anything. So I just think it works.
No, it does. It really does. So,
Yeah.
what is one thing you really want people to take away from this film?
It's lots of things really, but you know, it's a horror film with social comment. You see. Interwoven in the story because it's just, you know, supernatural story as well as being, you know, I'm not billing it as a domestic violence horror film, and I wouldn't dare do that, you know. It'd just be what a terrible thing to say. Um, but it is a horror film, and it is a psychological horror film, and it's got supernatural elements, and it is, you know, got social comment interwoven inside it, and people, I don't know. It's very difficult because of people's situations. You know, people what have been through stuff and who've watched it, and you know, two people at the premiere work with people in domestic violence, and they said that you know they took quite a lot away from the film, and they thought it was so well done and so well written, the way and well acted. You know, so they took something away from it, from what they've gone through in their time. But you know, I think it's every single person will take something different away. You know, it's very difficult for me to sum, or any of us today, to sum it up as a whole. Like you know, it's quite a difficult film like that. It's just got so many different sides to it.
Karina, what would you want people to take away from this film?
can you hear me when I'm talking?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it was very.
Everyone
Were you talking to
in
someone?
square. Where's my green square? No,
Okay.
I've just I wasn't sure if you could. What do I want to take away from it? Well, I actually am enjoying the fact that everybody's taking away something different from it, and I'm hearing all different opinions about what they think is going on, or what they think their backstory is, or just how they felt about it. That everyone's saying something different, and I think that's what I'm enjoying the most about it. So I'm glad that it's been spoken about afterwards. It's like a conversation afterwards, and that's how you know it stayed with them, because they've got so many questions, but it's not questions like, oh, it didn't work. It's like, oh, I wonder what was meant by that, and I wonder if she did this because of that, and it's become like a talking point, which I think is to our benefit, really. But I'm just enjoying the fact that there was a bit of back and forth, especially after the premiere, of people talking about what they thought was going on, like with people they didn't know, and it was just really interesting to hear some of the stuff they were saying and how much and what impact it had on them.
Gary, what do you want people to take away from this?
Yeah, I mean, just how scary people can be. You know, people that maybe you trust or whatever, how they can flip. You know, but from the film as well, you know, it's the film was it was a really great experience for me, and to work with so many talented people as well was wonderful. So yeah, that's basically that. That's it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Gemma, what do you want people to take away from this film?
I think, I don't know, it's really, it's one of those films where it's the fact that it's stayed with people, I think, like Corina said, and everybody seems to have so many different opinions. I'm happy that people are still talking about it afterwards, because it is such a heavy subject to broach. But I'm just enjoying the fact that, yeah, people are still taking it away with them. And there was almost a hush before the applause started. So when that happens, you kind of know that it has really, really hit deeply, and it's not just a surface level, and that people are not only just going to talk to you about it after the premiere, but you have the feeling that we're all going to go home and continue to talk to each other about it. And yeah, it's just the fact that it's stayed with people, I think, is brilliant, and just goes to show what amazing writing and acting all around, and just everybody, the whole cast and crew, just came together and created something that I'm just so incredibly proud of. So I'm glad that it's having the impact that it's having, and people are taking it with them.
You all should be incredibly proud of this. It's a fantastic film. Unfortunately, as you said, it will be 2 years before the general public gets to see it. But I really hope that it still resonates with people then. It's still got such a love for it when it finally comes out for everyone. And yeah, guys, I thank you all so much for appearing on the show today. This was a really, really nice thing. I was worried I was going to muck it up, but you all were all lovely. You were lovely, and I'm really happy.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say thank you to Martin? Martin put a lot of work into this. I think he's absolutely amazing. He'd done a wonderful, wonderful job on this. You know, from writing, from everything. He was great to work with, and also everybody. You know, was wonderful. Corina Jayne was wonderful. Stephen it was a really, truly great experience. Thanks very much to everyone from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any projects coming up or anything that they wanted to share with us before the show?
I'm doing pantomime.
What are you doing, sorry?
I'm doing pantomime.
You're doing pantomime?
Yeah.
Are you going to be the horse?
I'm playing, no, Dame.
Every time I hear pantomime, I'm like, who's going to be the back end of the horse?
Hey!
Well, yeah, as I said, thank you everyone so much for being on. This was actually a really great experience, and I'm really glad I got to meet all of you finally. I got to talk to you, Martin.
It's all right.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. You should all be really proud of everything you've done. And hopefully sometime soon, next time you do a project, you come back to the podcast. Open invitation.
Definitely.
Well,
thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Like and subscribe, do all those fun things, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.